Hey everybody, welcome to another GG.CO.UK video with me, Daryl Carter, and I'm joined by my fantastic colleague again. He's pushing his luck with a fantastic though after trolling me on Twitter with a few horses on your weather last week. But Andrew Mount joins me. We're going to look at day one at Cheltenham Festival. Now, just before we start, it's worth mentioning that this is an Ante-Post look at the races, so no final selections, but we will try and give you a selections for each race going forward. And closer to the time, we will have a more in-depth preview of the Cheltenham Festival of all 4 days. So, Andrew, how are you? How's the punting been?
Yeah, not so bad, thanks, Daryl. Had a good weekend. So we managed to dig out a few winners between us on the all-weather on Saturday. Caponanti Con and Twilight Air, the highlights. Could have done with Citizen Surge, but I foolishly took on your nap, didn't I, in that race at Wolverhampton, which would have got the treble up. But it was a good weekend.
Yeah, it was a good weekend considering there was a lot of action cancelled. So yeah, happy to get a few winners between us. That was decent. Okay, let's kick straight off. Supreme Novice Hurdle, Andrew, the first race of the day. This is a race that I don't know about you, and I feel like I'm in the same boat with a lot of other people. That this is a race I'm really struggling with at the moment this year.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? And I mean, it wouldn't surprise you if Appreciated won, but you wouldn't want to back him at 7-4. That's my take on it anyway. I mean, before the DRF, I said he'll win at Leopardstown, but he'll get chin, probably running well, but finishing second or third maybe at Cheltenham. Over the years, we've had a whole load of Irish bankers get beaten in this race, usually by another Irish horse, but that's another story. But I thought 7-4, I could leave him alone. I wouldn't want to back him Ante-Post. He'd probably be 9-4 on the day. There'll be a whole load of bookmakers' offers and firms offering sort of each way 6, 7, 8 places, money back on non-triers, money back if your horse doesn't finish in the first 6, all that kind of thing. So, maybe like fire a few arrows at bigger priced ones. And it's a difficult race to get too heavily involved in Ante-Post. But if I was going to put one up, I'd be sort of going left field and looking at big price ones. My Drogo, perhaps, for Dan Skelton. I mean, he's a 20-1 shot who won a Grade 2 hurdle in a fast time at Ascot on his latest start, yet seems to have been largely ignored in the betting. Stablemate Third Time Lucky, who needs a big field, strong pace, didn't get it when chinned at short odds at Musselburgh last time. And a horse called Benson for Dr. Richard Newland, who has been taking the handicap route, but he ran an astonishing race at Ascot last time and finished 4th of 17. He was in a different county coming around the home bend and somehow contrived to finish 4th of 17. He's the kind of horse who could, come through late, pick up the pieces and get a place maybe even better in that race. So Benson's about 50-1. My Drogo 20s. I think Third Time Lucky's 33-1. Those are the 3 that I was looking at this stage. And if you want me to nail it down to one of those, I'd go My Drogo.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. This is a strange market. I should have probably reeled off the market. You've got to Appreciate it 6-4, Gillard de Mensil 6-1, Metier at 6-1, Ballyadam 7-1, Zanier 7-1, French Seal 10-1, Galloway's 10-1, Bob Ollinger 12-1, and then 16-1 and 20-1 Bar. That starts with Blue Lord. Now, I thought the interesting thing about this race is that Blue Lord, for instance, ran an okay circuit time behind Appreciate It last time. He wasn't much slower, but he's 16-1 in the betting, and you've got 5 of the 7 ahead of him in the market that are not likely to run in this race. So the likes of Gillard de Mensil is going to go to the Ballymore, I hope, because I've got out of my supreme positions with him. Metier, Ballyadam will run. Zanier, French Seal, Galloway's, and Bob Ollinger all look to be going elsewhere. So it is a very strange market, and my Drogo was of interest to me as well. I'm just concerned that they're going to give Cheltenham a miss and go to Aintree. That was the last I've heard, but there's not been no word of him that I've heard of late. It's an interesting race. I thought Athol Street at a big price as well was interesting for Paul Nicholls. We've not heard much about him either, though, since Taunton. He looks a proper horse. But it's a market that is really up in the air at the moment, and we're 4 weeks tomorrow away from the Cheltenham Festival. I mean, I don't know whether it's a good thing for Ante-Post betting or it's a bad thing for Ante-Post betting.
I mean, I think this is probably the worst race to have an Ante-Post bet in at this stage of the season because of all those new account offers and, concessions the firms generally offer about the first race on the festival. So you'd probably be a little bit mad chucking 20 quid at one now when you might be able to chuck 20 quid at one on the day and get your money back if the horse gets beaten. So, yeah, this is kind of like a powder dry race at the moment. But, yeah, if you can get non-runner no bet 20 to 1 Drogo, then that's perhaps the way to go if you do want to get involved at this stage. I mean, Metier is interesting that they've decided they're not going to run in the rearranged Betfair Hurdle on Sunday, despite the fact that's worth 70,000 quid to the winner, and they're going to run in the Supreme worth 57 because they want the chance of a Cheltenham Festival winner. So yeah, that was an interesting take on it. I'd be, if I was Connections, I'd have been tempted to go for Newbury next week.
Yeah, the Betfair Hurdle winners do have a poor record in this race. That might have been in the back of their mind.
Yeah, I mean, there's not that many who've actually tried and gone there with a realistic chance. And of course, we had Kalashnikov, who very nearly won. The McManus-owned horse, whose name escapes me at the moment, again, who won the Betfair Hurdle and just got chinned in this. So, given those that have sort of won that race and turned up with a realistic chance, there aren't really that many. So that's probably a stat not to get too carried away with, I think.
There is an interesting little stat, if you like, for this race, though. Every year I go through the last 10 years or so of winners of this race, and it's a trend that continues to pop up. So in 2020, there were 4 horses rated 150 plus, and 2 of those were in the first 2. In 2019, Classical Dream was top rated at 154. In 2018, there were 3 150 plus horses. They finished in the first 2, and the other was Get a Bird, who we know needs to go the other way round. In 2017, LeBake won at a massive prize. And what's interesting in that race is there was no 150 plus horses. Ballyandy was top rated at 147. Right. And then you go back to 2016 and Altior's year, 155, 153, and 154. That's Mid and Bouvedere. The 3 finished clear of everything else. So if you're in the 150s, you normally have got a chance of being bang there. And Metier falls a pound short of that at the moment. For all on my figures, he is a 152 horse. But I mean, it's that sort of race where you are sort of splitting hairs with a lot of things. So if I've got to put one up, I'll put one up at Blue Lord and just say I think he'll be in the frame, and I think his price is too big at the moment, considering that 5 of the 7 ahead of him in the market won't run. So my Drogo for you, Andrew, and Blue Lord for me at this stage.
Yeah. My 10 or yours was the McManus horse I was thinking about back in 2013. But yeah, generally you look for last time out winners in this race. 9 of the last 10 won last time out, and obviously LeBake was the exception who'd blotted his copybot when refusing in his prep run.
What a nutter, but a talented horse on his day. Okay, let's move on to the Arkle. I don't think there's going to be much arguing in the fact that it's going to be between the top 2 in the market here. I think they're a stone or about £10 clear, if you like, of the rest of the field. You've got Shishkin at the moment at even money. Energumene in behind him at around 11 to 4, 5 to 2, depending where you shop around. All Mankind, who will run this week in the Kingmaker at Warwick, is next in. And then you're out to 14 to 1 Bar, Classical Dream, All Art, Franco de Port. Any strong fancies for this at the moment, Andrew?
I would say Shishkin over Energumene for me at the moment. Although you ask me again tomorrow, I might have changed my mind. The worry with Energumene, I guess, is that he's probably going to be ridden prominently. You would imagine if everything goes well in the Kingmaker for All Mankind, he's going to make the running. And I just thought Shishkin's going to love the strong pace. I mean, it's not necessarily going to be a big field. We've got about 31, I think, or thereabouts declared, entered at the moment. But the front 2 in the betting here could scare a few off. And, my sort of approach to the race on the day will be looking in the sort of without Shishkin market and looking for something at a big price who's perhaps going to be ridden patiently to try to get some place money. Because, if Energumene, All Mankind get racing a little bit too soon, they could end up being the 2nd or 3rd best horses in the race, but finishing 4th and 5th. And the places could be filled by ones at bigger prices. So, Franco de Port tends to come from off the pace. He might be a fair each way angle. But yeah, of those at the head of the betting, I thought Shishkin was, going to win this, hopefully travelling well, jumping well, doing a Sprinter Sacra, and go on to be a champion chase winner of the future. Yeah,
I tend to agree with you in terms of I kind of fancy Shishkin because I think, like you say, this race might just set up for him with All Mankind and Energumene going forward. It'd be interesting to see the tactics on the day, whether Willie will tell Paul Townend just to sit in behind and not try and take All Mankind in, because, or vice versa with Dan Skelton. But I can't really see that. All Mankind's got one way of running.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can take All Mankind on. He'll just be gone, won't he? And Energumen sat in second, you would imagine, and then Shishkin sort of like sort of third, fourth, fifth. Again, we've had 4 runners in this race in a recent renewal, so that big 2 could frighten. So it's probably not a bad race to tackle from an Ante-Post perspective now, because if you can find one each way who you think is definitely going to run barring injury, then you might end up with a fifth of the odds 1, 2, 3 in a race that has sort of 4, 5, 6, 7 runners on the day, and you're getting that extra place that you won't get on the day of the race itself.
Yeah, exactly. I was trying to find negatives with Shishkin, and the only really negative I found was that he does jump out to his left. Now I know that's not a big deal when in left-handed track, but if he's in amongst the pack and he something makes a mistake and he jumps out to the left or he bumps a horse, I mean, I'm really splitting hairs when I'm trying to find negatives with him. He does look a little bit outpaced at times in his races, I felt, in the early stages. He sort of needs a good gallop. He might just be seen to better effect off a stronger gallop behind All Mankind. So I am really struggling to try and knock him, and he's got that all-important course form. I thought Energumen going out to the right might be a cause for concern here at Cheltenham, especially coming down that hill at the third last.
Yeah, I mean, he did that at Leopardstown, of course. I mean, I actually laid him when he did his first sort of significant jump out to the right, thinking that's just going to get worse as the race goes on and he gets tired. And it didn't. He did it slightly on a few occasions, but he actually jumped better after that. And, of course, bolted up and I did my money. But, yeah, I mean, when you're talking about, a Grade 1 contest at the Cheltenham Festival, you want everything to be right. And if there's a doubt about, the track not being ideal, then you can't really take a short price about one. So, yeah, it's hard to pick holes in Shishkin. You could argue he's not battle-hardened over fences. He hasn't had a big field and, realistic rivals. He's basically had 3 exercise canters around flat tracks, twice at Kempton and once at Donny. But he's been here to Cheltenham before at the festival and he's done it in a big field, albeit over hurdles. So, plenty of ticks and boxes, very hard to oppose. Probably a horse you want to be chucking in multiple bets if you're having a short price acca at this stage. But as for Ante-Post, you've got to be looking for something each way. Maybe Franco Deporte in the hope that he's going to come through and pick up the pieces and maybe finish second or third.
Yeah, perfect. So it'd be Shishkin for me if I was pushed for a selection right now. Although there isn't a without bet, actually, I should probably just mention that Energumen without Shishkin is 4-6 on. What do you make of that? Do you think that's a bet of the century?
I think that's terrible. If he jumps out to his right, gets involved in a battle from a long way out with All Mankind, and then Shishkin comes through and does him, then he could end up, say, being the second best horse in the race, finishing third or fourth.
That's very, very true. Put me in my place there.
What about Sky Pirate, John Joe's horse, who really seems to have improved since coming back to 2 miles. When he got a reputation, fairly well deserved, I feel, for being a bit of a twicer and kept finding one too good. And then when he won that race at Cheltenham, the December meeting, the in-running market held up because everyone thought, "Who's that cruising? Oh, it's Sky Pirate. Don't worry, he'll find one to beat him." And then he's gone to Warwick again, another handicap chase, had a strong pace, won it very comfortably. Now he's going to go for the Kingmaker, which is later on the day we're recording, Monday the 15th of February. So he's 7-4 for that. That's a graded chase. So if he wins that, surely they'll come here instead of the Grand Annual. Or do you think they'll take the handicap route at the festival?
No, I think he will probably come here if he wins the Kingmaker, no doubt. But look, my honest opinion, this horse I'm the same as everybody else, backing this horse over the years, backing him, and then getting stung. But I do think he was just unexposed at 2 miles. He has been decent in his 2 starts over 2 miles. Whether he's up to the level of a 164 performer, I don't think so. I mean, running around those handicappers, beating a Moolah Gold is a useful piece of form, and beating a Bello, granted, is a useful piece of form, but it is handicap form at the end of the day for me, and I think he's got a massive uphill task. I think they're going to be forced to go here because he's up to 152 now. If he even goes close in the Kingmaker, he's going to go up a couple of more pounds. That's going to probably put him in in between a rock and a hard place for the Grand Annual. So they might be forced to come here. What they should have really done, I felt, was after he beat Billow, they should have stuck him over hurdles, gave him a couple of spins, and then came here with a mark of 145, or gone to the Grand Annual with a mark of 145.
I mean, he was entered in the Betfair Hurdle as well, wasn't he? So
yeah,
it was sort of difficult to try and second guess them. But I mean, if he runs first or second in the Kingmaker, then comes here, he's going to be sort of 12 to 1 or thereabouts. Be ridden for a place as well. Enjoy the strong pace, and he wouldn't be the worst Ante-Post each way bet either if you could get on non-runner no bet at the moment.
Cool. Could you imagine him coming down to the last on the bridle? Shishkin and Ergamine both off it, have been battling for 2 furlongs. Oh my. Okay, we're going to touch slightly on one of the handicap races next up, which is the Ultima Handicap, I believe. We're not going to spend too long on it, but we are going to try and pick it apart a little bit. So, Andy, have you got any fancies for the Ultima Handicap? Dickie Diver currently heading the market 8 to 1, Escaria 10, 8 to 1, Cocoa Beach 10 to 1, the conditional 10 to 1, Dash or Drash 12 to 1, Jerry's back 12 to 1, and Bigger the rest.
Yeah, I like this race as a general rule, and I'm always looking for horses who've run well in the race previously, because you get repeat winners, you get horses placing in it in consecutive years as well. So the conditional last year's winner has to enter calculations, and a horse who was placed last year, Discorama, he's 25 to 1 at the moment. He's been to the last 3 festivals. He's finished second, and third. So he's a very solid festival horse. And if he turned up in this, it's sort of, he'd probably be, I mean, if you back him Ante-Post now 25s, he's going to be sort of 12 to 1, 14 to 1, 16 at the most, I would have thought, on the day. So again, you'd want the non-runner no bet concession there. But I thought Discorama each way, given his festival record, not 100% sure if he's going to go for this race or another one, but say non-runner no bet makes him of interest. And one for the team for Nick Williams would have to enter calculations as well. He was very disappointing at Doncaster on his handicap debut last time in the Sky Bet Chase, but he raced around the inner where the ground was a lot slower. It was probably too soft for him as well. I mean, although I did have a good bet on him, with hindsight, probably wasn't the most sensible thing to do. He won the race with Kustar Sivila 3 years ago. That one's entered, but probably won't get in the race. I think he won it off 142, and he's down to a mark of 135 now. That's probably too low, but he would have a squeak also if he did get in the race. And a Henderson horse called Dickie Diver. Now, in the 2019 Albert Bartlett, he finished 5th. He did best of the British-trained runners behind MINELLA Indo. The next British-trained horse was the 6th, Lisnagar Oscar, who was 5 lengths behind him. And, of course, that one came out and won an albeit weak Stayers Hurdle at the festival last year. Now, his only run since was after a 21-month break when running in a handicap chase at Newbury in December. That was over the extended 2 mile 6. Now, he's come from off the pace that day behind all-the-way winner Paint the Dream. Newbury's chase course typically favours front runners. So to come from the back of the field on his first run for 21 months and finish where he did, I thought that was a really nice performance. Looking at the Ante-Post markets, his price ranges from 8 to 1 to 14 to 1. That's Dickie Diver.
Yeah.
So he was one of several on the shortlist. If I was going Ante-Post now, I'd back Discorama each way, non-runner, no bet, because he's been to the festival for the last 3 years. He's running handicaps every time. He's finished second, and third. He's consistent, he's reliable, and he'll give you a good run for your money.
What price does Dickie Diver, if he turns up here, what price does he go off at, being a JP horse at the head of the market for this, unexposed off a mark of 141? He could go off very short. Exactly,
yeah. He could go off like 4 to 1 favourite, something like that.
Yeah, he would be one on my shortlist. The other one would have been I did like Coconut Splash, actually, a horse for this, but he seems to have disappeared off the betting. I'm not entirely sure what's gone on there. And Evan Williams' horse, who was behind Mezir des Abos at Wincanton before Mezir des Abos went on to win the Grade 1 at the same venue. He was very much of interest. I thought Stepping Up and Trip would definitely suit him, but he's disappeared off the betting. St. Barts is the other horse that I'm very keen on. I do like this horse. He's a thorough stayer. He won at Newbury, beating Versatility off a mark of 128. He's up to 137. I mean, he's down at number 50, so whether he gets in here or not is a different matter. But I think if he does, he'll be in at the bottom of the weights. And I think he's a nice progressive horse. He's got loads more to come. Dickie Johnson will be on board. So that's sort of where I was looking at. I've not really made too much of a decision on the handicaps, as you can probably tell at the moment.
Yeah, Once we know the weights, and we'll have a bit more of a clue. So.
Yeah. Okay, let's leave that. Let's move on to the Champion Hurdle. I've been working on this race for about 4 months. It's another one that I am actually getting somewhere.
I'll sit back and let you give us the TriCast then.
Well, I've got this field actually down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 runners. Abacadabras, you'll be happy to know, is in there. Bouvardere is actually in there. He's had a little bit of sport in the market in the 20 to 1. Honeysuckle and Eptatante and Goshen is accompanying him. So that's where I've got it. Yeah.
You're on drugs, man.
No, look, I'll tell you the reason why. I'll tell you the reason why. He's on the shortlist. He's got a lot of questions to answer. Yes, he has. But if he repeats the win of his Triumph, if he repeats the figures that he clocked when running in the Triumph last year.
You almost said win, didn't you? You forgot what happened to him.
Yeah, I did. If he would repeat those figures from last year, then he would be in with a massive shout. Abacadabras, Eptatante, and Honeysuckle all ran on the same card last year, and Abacadabras ran a circuit time of 3:12.53. Eptatante 3:12.13, Honeysuckle 3:16.68, and they went very, very slow in the early part of that Mares Hurdle as well. And then 3 furlongs to the finish. Abacadabras was 1 minute and 22 seconds. Eptatante 58.52. Honeysuckle 1 minute and 31. So Honeysuckle was slower over the course of the circuit and from 3 out to the finish. Obviously, she'd ran over further, but like I say, they was going a dawdle early on. And on that basis, I think Abacadabras is going to need to improve from his Supreme run, which he hasn't done so far this season. Now, Gordon Elliott might be leaving a little bit on him for the Champion Hurdle. The bigger field and stronger pace scenario probably will benefit him, but he does need to improve. I felt Honeysuckle needed to improve. I was really impressed with her at Leopardstown, winning by 10 lengths over Abacadabras, but I've been back through her last 5 runs, and I do think they've all been slowly run. I think she's been well positioned. I think she's stolen them off the front end. So I've gone off her slightly since Leopardstown, and I've done a big U-turn back to Eptatante, who I can happily forgive her Kempton run, given there were issues with her back. We've heard lots of excuses, as we always do, from Nicky Henderson Yard. But on the balance of her performance at this race last year, and then looking at her Newcastle performance where she was really impressive, I'm happy to forgive that. I would have liked to have seen her come out again before going straight to the Champion Hurdle, I must admit. So I wouldn't be as confident on her as I was last year, but I do think she sets the standard. Just flipping back to Goshen.
What price is he?
He's around. I backed him at 25 to 1. He's 16 to 1, non-runner, no bet. He's around the 20 to 1 mark.
He should be that to get round, for goodness sake, man.
I'll tell you what. What's your issue with Goshen then? Obviously, we know he's got a few questions to answer, but if you, based on that Triumph performance last year.
Yeah, but that wasn't a strong race, was it, the Triumph, for a start? And he's run like he's got 3 legs since, hasn't he? You know, he's best right-handed as well. I know he would have won the Triumph had he stood up, but he did his usual thing of jumping out to the right, coming to the near side. This is a Champion Hurdle. He's not going to get away with that here, and I don't think he should be in the race.
Some harsh words from Andrew.
I'm amazed he's between 16 and 25 to 1. That's absolute madness.
Where do you stand on Bouvardere? I mean, he's got a...
Yeah, I was quite taken with that comeback at Haydock when he's finished second to Navajo Pass. 3-runner race, first run for ages. You know, the winner got a soft time of things in front. It was a fair performance to finish second, finishing in front of Baliandi, whose trainer had an excellent record in that particular race and who won it the year before. So, yeah, I thought it was there were plenty of positives to take from it. And,
does the age put you off?
Not particularly, given how lightly raced he is for his age, and the fact that he's been there and done it, of course. And we've seen before, like with My Tent or Yours, rocking up in the race and running consistently well. I could see Bouvardere finishing second, third, or fourth. So certainly wouldn't put you off, each way. Although again, if you're betting Ante-Post, you're getting a 5th, 1, 2, 3. You're thinking, well, would I rather? If 17 runners turn up, someone's going to go a 5th, first 5, and I'd rather take 18, 16 to 1, 20 to 1 than the sort of 22, 25s now, obviously, and get those extra couple of places, which, I can see 16, 17 turning up for this, and there being some really, good each way offers. So, going in now on a horse like that is not really for me. I mean, again, looking at we see it time and time and again in the Champion Hurdle. We get big price place horses who've been ridden to pick up the pieces and come from off the pace. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Eptatante or Honeysuckle won. I wouldn't want to back either of them at 5-2. I think Honeysuckle will go off as favourite, but I think we'll be talking like 11-4, 3-1, as opposed to 7-2 Eptatante, or even 4-1 Eptatante. I think both are going to drift. Bookmakers will be keen to get them on the day. Silver Streak, solid enough. I've put him up as an each way bet the last twice. He placed at 80-1 2 years ago. He was only 6 last year at 16-1. Evan Williams keeps talking about, he now realises he's a proper Grade 1 horse and he's trained him differently this year. Change of tactics, caught out Eptatante at Kempton last time out. But he's a horse who's better on good ground, good to soft, good or good to soft ideally. Will he get his conditions? We don't know. I mean, it's going to be good to soft at the quickest, you would think. If it is officially good to soft on day one, he'd have a better chance than last year when it was soft. I could back him each way quite happily. I could back Abacadabras, who I think needs a bigger field, stronger pace. I was quite pleased with that 10-length second to Honeysuckle. When he's
said no one ever.
But I mean, when you go back to, again, you go back to his Shishkin form in the Supreme when he's second by a head in the field of 15, and you look at his form in general. When he's had a big field, strong pace, he's generally done better. So I could quite happily back Abacadabras each way, Silver Streak each way, Son Roy as well. He's another one who needs a big field. And again, you're talking about horses that are going to be big prices, 25, 33-1. You could come through and finish in the first 3 or 4, or even 5 if you're getting those extra place concessions. But if I was, Buzz is another one. We know Buzz travels like Archibald and then doesn't always find it the business end. If Buzz turns up here instead of something like the County Hurdle, he'll have a great chance of a place. And that's the way I want to be playing this race, I think, looking for something at a double-figure price to back each way. If I was going to do one now, I'd say Abacadabras at 12-1. But I think we're going to get much better place terms, on the day or in the run-up, a day or two before the race. And that's when we can be looking at the shape of it, seeing how many front runners we've got, and looking at the likes of Buzz, Son Roy, who are just going to be ridden for to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely worth having a look on the day, especially if these favourites have been getting beaten. They're going to want to try and take on the head of the market, especially in this race. Okie doke, we're going to move on to the Mayor's Hurdle. I haven't really got much to say about this race, Andrew. Concertista heads the market. I thought she was the right favourite. I went through this for GG doing the preview. I just thought there was a real lack of depth in the race, to be honest. There's a couple that could pop up at big prices, but I think she's got two rivals maybe to beat. Dame de Company, Eglantine de Saul always runs well at Cheltenham, and I thought Indefatigable was the other one that she probably would have to beat. I think this is weak, and I think she is banker material, really. I find it very difficult to take her on. I suppose it would be interesting if I knew Dame de Company was coming here, but Concertista 6-4, Dame de Company 8-1 second fab, Great White Shark 20-1, Minella Melody 20-1, Black Tears 25-1, Floressa 25-1, bigger the rest.
Yeah, again, this race has got a history of big price placed horses. Obviously it's been dominated by those near the head of the market, particularly by Mr. Mullins, and I would imagine Concertista will probably win this or at least go extremely close. But again, you want to be looking for those massive prices who are going to be, not serving it up at the front end in the early stages and ridden, for a place or maybe if they stop in front, a chance to win. Indefatigable is the one that I was leaning towards as well. Completely gutted that I didn't put her up as a bet at last year's festival. She's a horse I've been a big fan of for some time. Often runs well against pace biases. coming through and slowly run races to sort of finish third or fourth, get her in a big field, get her off a strong gallop. She's a much better horse. And obviously she's been to the festival before and done it. So, Concertista for me, but indefatigable each way was the way I was looking at this stage.
Yeah,
And Alan King's Midnight's Gift's worth a mention as well. Alan King's done well in the mares races with big price place horses over the years, and went extremely close in this a couple of years ago. When I've actually trying to remember the name of the horse, not Roxana's year. I think it was in Benny Dede's year. Where Midnight Tour beaten half a length at 33-1. I've actually tipped this at 66-1 at a preview night I do locally in Market Harborough, and sadly got fetched out by half a length. But similar breeding, Midnight's Gift. Again, you would imagine will be ridden for a place, and it's 50-1, 66-1. That could be interesting as well.
I'm sure we are under the impression that Benny's not going to go here, Ellie Mae's not going to go here, Honeysuckle's not going to go here, Roxana's not going to go here, aren't we? Because those are supposed the standout horses that could put it up to the Fav. I'm assuming Benny will go for the Mare's Chase.
And again, looking at the prospect of the front end of the market sort of evaporating and leaving just Concertista on her own pretty much, then maybe this is a race we should be tackling Ante-Post at the moment, because again, it could cut up quite significantly, and those horses are now sort of 50s, 66s, 33s. Could be a lot shorter in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, and if Dan Skelton drops Roxana back to this trip, it's an absolute travesty. If he drops her back to this trip where she's clearly improved for 3 miles, it'll be disgusting.
Yeah, you think she's got to go for the stayers. I mean, Rainer's World's worth mentioning as well, because she was third at 100-1 behind Concertista last year. And again, is another one who likes to come from well off the pace and perhaps hasn't had races run to suit recently. Small field tactical affairs, not her bag. Get her to the festival. If they go like the Clappers up front, another place could be on the cards for Rainer's World.
Is she ground dependent, would you say? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, certainly likes it deep. It's all her wins have come unofficially soft or heavy going. So, maybe that's one way yours. But again, when you look at her big field runs, they've all coincidentally come on that sort of ground. She hasn't really encountered a big field over hurdles when it's been good or good to soft. So, bit of guesswork involved there. But at the price is 100. She's 100-1 again.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be the worst tiny Ante-Post poke.
Selection. I'm going to back Concertista in this race, and I'm going to do it before the final field comes out, because I do think it's going to cut right up. So 6-4 for me, that'll do. Yeah,
I'll be in agreement with you, Concertista. If you want one each way, maybe we'll go Midnight's Gift. She's actually due to run at Lingfield today, one of those jumpers bumpers.
What a state them races are.
Given Alan King's record of big priced in the frame horses in this race, maybe she can give us a run for our money. Midnight's Gift.
Excellent. Okie doke. The Boodles, the next race we'll touch on. Again, handicap, so we don't know the weights, we don't know half of the marks, we don't know the field, but we'll have a bash. Adagio heads the market. I'm using Betfair non-runner no bet prices here. Adagio 7-1, Saint Sam 7-1, Busselton 10-1, Dufflecoat 10-1, Druidalta 14s, Good Ball 14s, Abacadabras 14s, Tihapu 14s, and bigger the rest. I know that you tipped up Calvert Cliffs to nab me at where was it in his last race? Is he of interest to you? Yeah, Warwick. Is he of interest to you?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, Dan Skelton runners in the handicaps, a bit like Nick Williams runners in the handicaps. You can generally back them and make a few quid in certain situations. And I'd look out for any Dan Skelton runners that have had a wind up as well prior to the festival. They always seem to run well from an admittedly small sample size. This is an absolute minefield. And you look at the roll call of previous winners and the number of 25-1 and 33-1 shots. It tells you how difficult it is to find the winner on the day, let alone Ante-Post. But again, trying to find a horse who's going to be ridden patiently, and a horse who's been... They tend to fit the sort of similar profile of this race. They'll have perhaps one first time out over hurdles, and then had a couple of runs down the field under patient tactics in Grade 1, Grade 2 contests that they can't win. Kind of like, arriving here with form figures of sort of 1, 4, 6. That's 6 coming in a sort of 8-runner field when beaten sort of 30, 40 lengths in a Grade 1 at Leopardstown. All they've kind of like they've run well sort of first time out, second time out they've got the win, and then it's breaks on third time in another graded race. And so looking for those lightly raced ones who've been in a graded race, even if they haven't sort of necessarily done particularly well in it. So I need to do a lot more work on this race.
Yeah,
I
do. One that does fit what you've just been saying there is Saint Sam. Apart from his price being at the head of the market, whether here or not he's going to go to the Triumph or here, I'm unsure. I suppose we'll have to wait and see. There have been rumours that he's just going to go to the Triumph.
Right.
I think it'd be silly not to come into this race. Really, he's got a mark of 136. That's an Irish mark of 136. So he's probably going to get 140. Might be a tad high. The thing with these juvenile races is they tend to give them such high marks so early on in their career, and it tends to ruin them for the next season because they're handicapped out of things, and they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Not good enough to enter graded company. It's a bit of a mess on the race. I'm not going to put up a selection for this race, Andrew. I won't be forced. I'll tell Ross and the GG team that no, there's no selection for this race just yet. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a few systems for this race as we talk about. I mean, one interesting one is just look for a horse who was ridden patiently last time out. So ignore front runners, ignore horses who are prominent, chase leaders, track leaders on their latest start, and look for those that had had a run within the last 6 weeks. Now, if you combine those two things, hold up tactics on their latest start, recent run within 6 weeks, you've got 8 winners from 76 runners over the years, a huge profit of £89 to a £1 level stake at SP. So you need to sort of see those who are going into the meeting with a run in the next sort of week or so to sort of fit that recent outing criteria. And I'd wait for the day. Cabo Cliffs, I'd give a squeak to. And the is it the Joseph O'Brien horse? Bear with me. Ran in the DRF Busselton. He I thought would appreciate sort of the switch to handicap company after running some good races the last twice. So Busselton's 14-1, third in best price at the moment. He'd be on the radar.
Perfect. Okey-doke. Last race on the first day of the Cheltenham Festival is we're going to touch on is the National Hunt Chase, the Old 4-miler. It's an amateur jockey riders race, Andrew. Do you think that we're going to be seeing any amateur jockeys taking the rides on these horses at the festival?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We don't know because amateur jockeys are obviously not classed as elite sportsmen, so they can't ride at the moment. So, we've seen hunter chases at Ludlow earlier this month where it's professional jockeys taking the ride. So, that was obviously one of the angles you'd look for in this race and the Kim Muir. You'd look for those top Irish amateurs and who they were booked for, the Jamie Codds of the world. But we might not have that this time around. So it's just a case of keep an eye on the Racing Post headlines and wait and see. Yeah,
exactly. Galvin heads to market 5-1. Eclair de Ree has been backed in to second fav at 12-1. Cocoa Beach 14-1. Latest Exhibition 14-1. Royal Pagaille 14-1. Next Destination 16-1. Secret Reprieve, the Welsh national winner at 16-1. And Asterion Phalanges in here at 20-1. And then it's Escaria 10 at 20-1 and bigger the rest. Where are you looking at it? I think this is a cracking race. I think this is turned out to be quite a classy race if a lot of these come in here.
Yeah, obviously this race has changed over the years. I think it used to have a listed status, then it's been up to grade 2. So it does tend not to go to those bigger priced horses as much nowadays. Galvin's certainly solid enough for Gordon Elliott, who's won this before. Royal Pagaille, we imagine he's going to go to the Gold Cup. I mean, the one I liked and I put up in my preview for GG, I did a week or two ago, was Latest Exhibition, who has never finished out of the first 2 in his career, 6 wins, 5 seconds from 11 career starts. And of course, he keeps bumping into Monkfish. He's run against him 3 times now. They ran in the Albert Bartlett last year. Latest Exhibition, second by a neck to Monkfish. They've clashed twice over fences at Leopardstown over Christmas and again at the DRF. And what happens? latest exhibition, Chases Home Monkfish. So he's got multiple options at the festival, like many horses have. But I thought if he came here, he's not going to be taking on Monkfish, and that would give him every chance, I think. And he certainly shapes as though the trip could be within his compass. He stayed on pretty strongly in the Albert Bartlett over 3 miles. I'm not totally convinced he's been suited by sort of 2 miles 5, 2 miles 6 on a few occasions this season. So I'm hoping they're going to take the plunge with the latest exhibition here. And again, if you can be on non-runner no bet, 14 to 1, 12 to 1 thereabouts, he's not going to be a double figure price if he comes here with that record of never having finished worse than second.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a bit of a class act in the field, but this is a classy race. Galvin's obviously been targeted at this race since October, being put away. I think that this race has got a lot stronger since he's been about and he's been in his box. I think a lot of horses have come out of the woodwork for this race. This Eclair I thought was quite impressive, beating Escaria 10. Although I was on Escaria 10 that day, and I did feel that Escaria 10 took the inside route and went around the worst of the ground. I could not believe what Jack Kennedy was doing. Everything was coming wide at Nace that day. Nace that day, and he just tracked right around the inside, made a slight mistake at the last, and got done for a bit of time. And I thought there was a lot more to come from Escaria 10. So he'd be interesting if he comes in here. He's 20 to 1. Eclair is 12 to 1. So bit of a price disparity there for me. I do like Escaria 10 for this. The other one I like is Longhouse Poet. I think this horse is just a galloper, and I think he's been finding trips far too short for him. Stepped up heavy ground at Punchestown, beat Run Wild Fred. That form has worked out quite nicely. But I just think the further he goes, the better he'll be. So Longhouse Poet is definitely on the radar, along with Escaria 10 at the moment. But I do think the top of the market is quite classy. So it'll be interesting to see how this race shapes up, who takes the ride, and who goes where, because it's a cracking race. 5 to 1 the field, 12 to 1 Bar Galvin. It's very interesting.
Yeah, where do you stand on if the cap fits for Harry Fry? Are you sort of thinking the further he goes, the more fences he's got to jump and the more chance he's got of making a howling error and getting behind? Or do you think, if he's within 50 yards of them at the foot of the hill, he might actually stay on and get involved?
I don't know. I thought for sure that he had an excellent chance to prove that this race was right for him at Taunton in the Portman Cup, but he was comfortably taking care of Yala Enki. And like you say, he doesn't look to have the speed for 3 miles. He doesn't look to have the speed for 2.5 miles. Does he really want 3.5 miles and those extra fences? I don't know. I think they're having a bit of fun with him, to be honest. I think, and just rolling the dice at a lot of different options. I think back over hurdles for if the cap fits. But originally, when he stayed on really strongly behind Kempton, I thought that this race would be the right race for him.
Right.
Then that Portman Cup runner put me off a little bit, if I'll be honest.
Okay. Well, there's one other I'll mention as well, Sizing at Midnight for Colin Tizard. And you and I have talked at length about the Colin Tizard runners over the winter. We know he was quiet for quite a long period of time. They've started winning again now, and he's going to have perhaps quite a few who've not had the chance to show their true potential. Sizing at Midnight was last seen on the 7th of November, travelling really strongly when falling in the Badger Beers Trophy at Wincanton. And he's in one of the handicaps, I think, or he's likely to be in probably 2 or 3 handicaps, and might take that route instead. But he's 50 to 1 for this. If he did come here, if it was sort of good to soft ground and no worse, then he could run a race. Remember we have had Lebroy was sort of 14 to 1 when winning this. Tiger Roll was 16 to 1 when winning this. So it's not gone to a favourite since it was converted to a Grade 2 contest. We have to go back to 2013 to the last Jolly to win this. That's when it was a Class 2 contest. So, sometimes it pays to think outside the box in this race, as indeed it does with the entire festival. I mean, that's an interesting point. In the last 2 festivals, if you'd bet every single runner at Betfair SP, you'd have made a profit.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. So because when you're getting these 50 to 1, 66 to 1 shots of returning sort of 100, 150 to 1 on the exchanges, so you could just back every runner at the last 2 festivals and make money. So we do get carried away looking at the short price supposed good things on occasions, but there will be shocks, as there are every year. And sizing at midnight 50-1 might be one of them.
Yeah, he's a lovely horse and he's definitely well handicapped. So I was hoping he would go the handicap route, but that's a fair shout. Okay, that sort of rounds off day one. We've got quite a few questions come in, Andrew. The first one was from Ante-Post. What are we taking on Appreciate It with? My Drogo has to be the one, doesn't he? We know Appreciate beats everything Irish at 20-1 plus. My Drogo should win. It'd be ironic if Skelton beat Mullins in the first half. The recent comments in the Racing Post, obviously, he's referring to Dan Skelton, saying that Willie Mullins has an easy time of things en route to the Cheltenham Festival. What do you make of Dan Skelton's comments? And
yeah, well, funny enough, they actually inspired me to do a system to have a look at what happened to any horse that ran in Ireland last time out and was described as having won easily or comfortably. And they do flipping well at Cheltenham, particularly over hurdles rather than fences, and you could make money back in them all. But at the same token, you'd think, well, surely British trained horses who've had a similar easy prep, winning at odds of 1-6 at Newbury, like the majority of Henderson's do, then they do equally as well, and they don't at all. And so you come down to, you think, well, maybe the Irish are better trainers or have got the better horses or both. And I don't think there's anything in it, but particularly in terms of British horses. The British horses who have an easy race tend to do terribly at the Cheltenham Festival. So maybe you want someone who's been in a battle.
Maybe the interesting thing with his comments, I thought, was perhaps I was reading into it, and I thought perhaps he's referring to the fact that they tend to, the favoured horses of the likes of William Mullins, they tend to go out in front in Ireland, they tend to make all, and they don't really get themselves into a battle.
Yeah, like
Monkfish, a lot of those are being handicapped. Well, yeah, for instance, an Ergamine and another one who's continued to make all. And, even when Unaccepted won the time before, he was just out in front, popped off and made all. And I'm just wondering if there's too many horses in behind that are sort of handicapping themselves rather than there to be in a contest.
Yeah, and again, if they're stable, I mean, Kemboy, for example, in the Irish Gold Cup, was just allowed to steal 5 lengths at the start and won by 5 lengths, and it was a lot more of a comfortable Cheltenham Gold Cup prep than it was for Native River, who's got involved in a grueling battle in the mud at Sandown. It's a fantastic race to watch, but perhaps not the ideal preparation for Cheltenham. That will be revealed in a few weeks' time. But again, I mean, Willie Mullins has just got a wealth of very, very good horses that are running in these races, and
he's also not afraid to run his own horses against each other, is he? That's something that you don't see over here. So, he should be commended for that.
I guess the fact is it's only him and Gordon Elliott and maybe Henry de Bromhead to a lesser extent who've got the good horses, so that can't be avoided, really.
Yeah. Okay, so Ante-Post, my Drogo has to be the one to take on Appreciate It. You agree with that, don't you, Andrew, I'm assuming?
Yeah, certainly. I say my Drogo, third time lucky. Even Benson with 3 horses that I was interested in. So again, third time lucky, gets chinned at short odds in a small field tactical affair at Musselburgh. Get him in a big field at Cheltenham, he'll be a different proposition. But again, he's got multiple options. He might end up in something like the County Hurdle.
Yeah. Okay, Neil Dawkins, will All Mankind front running help Shishkin win the Arkle, and who wins the Mayor's Hurdle?
I would say All Mankind is bound to go from the front in the Arkle. Of course, he is having his final prep race on the day we're recording this video. So, I don't want to wish anything untoward, but if he hadn't seated his rider, then picked up a minor injury, he wouldn't turn up. Or if he goes from the front and he ends up clouting a fence and pulling up, then maybe we won't even see him at Cheltenham. But as things stand, All Mankind will surely make the running because that's what he does. And again, it's often been a successful tactic in the Arkle. Put the kettle on last year, of course. Fairly unconsidered. What was she? 16-1 in the end, or maybe 33s on the day in the morning. Pings off in front, game over, and all it takes is a couple of novice errors in behind, and you've got a lot of ground to make up. So, having done so well under forcing tactics in the past, they're not going to change things going into a Grade 1 race at the Cheltenham Festival. I wouldn't have thought. So yeah, All Mankind will surely make the running. That could help.
He's a pivotal piece of the puzzle, isn't he, for the race? He's a key component to that race, I think.
Yeah, and you would imagine, All Mankind makes it on the inside, and Ergerman sits in second, jumping out to his right. Nobody wants to be silly enough to challenge on his right-hand side, so Shishkin's up the inside, and that could lead. If something falls in front of Shishkin, or All Mankind stops quickly up the hill and hampers Shishkin. I mean, these are horse races. We know what can go wrong. Lots of things. That's why bookmakers still exist, because every time we turn up at the Cheltenham Festival and there's 6 or 7 odds-on favourites going into it, we know that only sort of a couple of those will probably end up winning, and there'll be a few hard luck stories.
Yeah. Daniel Locke says, does Metier represent each way value at sevens? I think he actually does. I mean, we know he's going to go for the race. There's a lot of horses in behind him at the market and in front of him in the market that are definitely not going to go for the race. I think from an Ante-Post point of view, sevens, I don't think you'll be much shorter on the day. You'll probably get 5s.
Maybe. Yeah, and again, but if every bookmaker is going 5, 6, 7, or even 8 places on this race, they're probably going to shorten everything up as a result as well. So you could end up 5-1, a fifth, first 5, getting even money about the place aspect, or you're getting now, 7-1, a fifth of the odds. You're getting 2.4, or 7-5 the place. If Metier gets beat, is he going to finish 5th, or is he more likely to finish 2nd or 3rd? You would imagine. So, yeah, I can see the case for backing Metier each way at sevens. You're probably going to beat SP, and he's one of those that, from what we know, he looks fairly difficult to kick out the frame.
Yeah. Jamie Mitchell, Gavin said, does the team have a lucky win 15 for the festival? Jamie Mitchell was asked each way Trixie for the handicaps at Cheltenham. So I did ask Leona for an each way Trixie. Not in the handicap. She's given me Sky Pirate, so she'll be hoping he wins today in the Arkle. Galvin in the National Hunt Chase, and Zanier in the Triumph. My each way Trixie would be Koshari 25-1 in the Coral Cup. I think it's around 16s actually now. Espoir de Rome for the plate for around 14s. And I was going to put Imperial Alcazar in at 8-1, but I get the feeling that a lot of people are onto Imperial Alcazar now. So I am going to back Imperial Alcazar, but I'll chuck in Common Teddy in the same race in the Pretemps. I think he's got a fantastic chance. You got an each way Trixie you'd like to throw out there, Andrew?
Not for the handicaps at this stage, because we don't know the weights, we don't know the entries, and there's just far too much guesswork involved.
Right.
As for that's the kind of question you needed to ask me yesterday, perhaps, and give me a bit more time to work on it.
Yeah, apologies.
But in a word, no. Abacadabras. Go on, for it. I'll dig out one on some of those ones. Yeah, we could go sort of my Drogo at 20s for the Supreme, Abacadabras at 12s for the Champion Hurdle, and let's go. What else did we talk about? The Mayor's Hurdle. Let's go Indefatigable for.
You're checking.
Indefatigable for that one, and but yeah, again, you're talking about rather than buy 2 lottery tickets, do a £1 each way Trixie on those 3, and make sure you're on non-runner no bet. But we'll be putting up a lot more confident selections closer to the time in our columns, of course, won't we?
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of more questions. Brett Williams, thoughts on Metier and the Supreme 3 wins from 3? I think we've touched on that. I think he's good each way value. Do you think he's vulnerable for the win purposes, Metier and the Supreme?
Yeah, just because I think every horse is vulnerable from the win purposes in the Supreme, because we've seen a whole host of funny results over the years, and we've seen some hard luck stories, horses carried out. We've seen horses like LeBake win at big prices. So, yeah, would you put him in your place part? Yeah. Would you be quite happy you've got an Ante-Post voucher about him? Yeah. I'd certainly rather back him each way than back Anticipate It to win. But again,
it's one of those races. It's hard to be overly confident about anything, isn't it? It really is. I don't want to say it's underwhelming. It's the first race of the goddamn Cheltenham Festival, but from a betting perspective, it is very, very difficult.
I mean, we don't know the going. We don't know the final makeup of the field. We don't know whether there's going to be 8 front runners or just 1 or 2. We don't know what. I'd love to get there and walk the track as I do. I've done sort of every day of recent festivals and think, the ground's quicker up the stand side rail, so anything that's held up and switched wide, coming the Paddy Brennan route, might be the one I want to back. So which jockeys and which trainers tend to go around the inside when it's deeper there, like Alan King horses, for example. He tends to instruct his horses to go around the inner, which isn't always the best thing to do when the ground's riding soft or heavy. So there's a lot of things we don't know yet, and it's difficult to be confident about anything in that opener.
Yeah. Jay Stewart has touched on Embittered for the Grand Annual and touched on the Ryanair. I think we'll cover those in later episodes. So the final question, which came from Jay Stewart, was Busselton be on your radar for the Boodles between 10 and 14 to 1? I could see him being a lot shorter, with Mullins saying that St. Sam may go for the Triumph Hurdle. Busselton, you've touched on that previously. I think you look quite keen, aren't you?
Yeah. I actually bet him at Leopardstown at the DRF. He'd run well against a bias in his previous start, and I think he was around the inside where he made the running round the inner at the Leopardstown Boxing Day meeting, where pretty much all the winners over hurdles were coming late and wide round the outside. Of course, Zanahir was the winner of that race. He raced on the outer. The third, Haute d'Or, for Willie Mullins, again, was towards the outer. So I just thought it was a run that you could upgrade. He's gone to the DRF. It was the Spring Juvenile Hurdle. He's run a solid enough race. I think he's run about 14 to 1. He's finished third, never looked like winning. But there's certainly plenty of promise in those runs, particularly that Boxing Day second in the Knight Frank Juvenile Hurdle, a Grade 2 contest. That suggests he'll be a big player at Cheltenham.
Yeah, so thumbs up there then, Jay Stewart from Andrew for Busselton. Right, that sort of rounds us off, Andrew. Obviously, we've not been overly confident on a lot of selections. We have put up a selection for each race from an Ante-Post perspective, but probably in terms of value come the day rather than confidence-wise. Are you looking forward to it, and are you building up your work now in terms of your preparation for your final bets at Cheltenham as things really start to ramp up and using every evening for Cheltenham, or at least a part of your day now for Cheltenham? How do you build up towards the festival?
Yeah, I could tell you haven't got kids, Daryl. So when you've got a toddler, using every evening is obviously not happening. But yeah, I'm looking at I've been trying to look at one race per day. I mean, you and I have split the 28 races between us for GG, and so there's a preview per day in February. You've got 14, I've got the other 14, so that's certainly helping as well. And I mean, one thing this year, I won't actually be down at Cheltenham, so which is the first time for many years that I won't have been at the track. So I guess that gives me a little bit more time at home as well, and there's not sort of travelling time to take into account. So hopefully that will be reflected.
Is that easier for your in running betting, etc. like that? Would that be easier for you now you're at home, going to be at home for the week?
Yeah, I mean, it's easier for sort of writing columns, getting work done, I guess. And I've always been a bit of an early riser, so it'll be sort of probably up at sort of between 5 and 6 a.m. on each day, and just putting the finishing touches to my bets and my GG column if I haven't already put it up the night before. And again, just that sort of quiet time before everybody else is up, just to kind of sort of gather your thoughts and not have the noise from other people's selections and phone calls and messages and WhatsApp and people saying, "Oh, I like this one. I've heard that one's fancied." Blah blah blah, and
it's very important to clear that mind and just know what you want to do rather than what everybody else.
Yeah, and as soon as you pick up the Racing Post and start watching the preview shows, then you can be swayed by other people's opinions, even if you think you're not going to be. So take a bit of time out.
Brilliant. Okay, that's it for this week, guys. Join us next week. We will have a look at day 2 and so on and so forth. We will have a full Cheltenham preview coming up on GG.CO.UK, which will include Leona, so you'll be happy to see that she's back presenting and it's not me. But we look forward to joining you. Hopefully we've answered most of your questions. And thank you very much, Andrew, for joining me.
Cheers, Daryl.